Good evening, welcome to the November 9th, 2022 ARPA meeting. Plan tonight is to review 5 applications for grant money to come out of the ARPA funds. We do have a quorum, and so without further ado, I invite Nancy Hill to begin.
Brian Kiley joining me, that's okay.
Brian,
How you doing?
yourself?
Good evening. Thanks.
So, why don't you tell us what we want to do?
Well, I would very much like to add a pavilion to the grounds of the center at Sachem Rock. We learned very quickly when the pandemic hit that our grounds are beautiful, and we could host small gatherings outside, socially distanced. We were doing that in the driveway. We were able to have small classes and presentations, and we opened probably before any other senior center in the area because of our grounds and our ability to be outside. With that being said, it would have been wonderful if we had a covered area where we could do more programming that wasn't quite as weather dependent. We also had to carry the chairs in and out for each class, each event. I also think it would just be a great addition to the property for other groups to use. And I envision us using it, weather permitting, almost as an additional a room and extension of the senior center for additional programming.
Okay.
Just to echo what Nancy was saying, I personally think the grounds are underutilized down there. It's a beautiful area, and I think the seniors really enjoyed being outside. Pandemic kind of proved that they liked being outside.
And we do continue to offer programs outside when we can, but again, it's limited by the driveway area. And now that we're fully open, we have a lot more traffic in the, in the driveway area, so we have to divert that if we are able to offer something outside in the driveway. So it's a little bit more complicated now than it was during the pandemic.
Any questions? Gigi?
So no estimate was provided. How do we come up with that amount?
I contacted one of the architects that we've been working with for the past couple of years, and he provided me a pro bono estimate. He Google Earthed it. I told him what we were looking for. He was quite familiar with one. They've built one before for another town in a different state, and that's where we arrived at that.
Okay.
It's a lot of money, but there's a big unknown about excavation down there and what we're gonna have to do for site work.
Thank you.
That was my question. Yeah,
And we gotta get electricity to it too.
Okay,
We're not planning on any bathroom facilities. No.
do you have a rough plan? Do you have something that would kind of give us an idea what you're looking at?
We do not. That I would've had to pay for,
Okay,
and
yeah.
I didn't have the money for that, and neither did Nancy, so.
I think anyway, going forward, we would end up having to put it out to bid anyway,
Absolutely,
right? So,
yes.
get that information there.
But in order to go out to bid, you need schematic designs, construction documents, and there's a cost associated with that.
What is free? Had you thought of, any thought been given to using it for rentals and things like that, to make it a source of income also? Like, for instance, summertime picnics or whatever,
I
or,
would certainly think that would be doable. That's up to the Board of Selectmen. They control the rentals, even inside the property. I'm not in control of that, so.
but had you thought of doing that? Would that be something you would be proposing to them?
I would think so, yes.
I think the intent is for community use.
Yeah.
And if, cost-wise of maintaining and running it, I mean, it doesn't sound like it's gonna be on the scale of the commercial club, but would it make sense to consult with them to find out the goods and the bads of their pavilion?
We hadn't thought of doing that. We could.
We definitely could. I mean, they're in a different operation.
Right, it's different, but some of the things are gonna come out to be the
Yes.
same, and you could maybe learn
I
something
mean,
from that.
what I had visioned down there was, you know, roughly a 40 by 60, which is pretty much the footprint of the new police department garage. The footprint itself. And a storage area on one end of it for the tables and chairs, and get some power out there. Pretty simple.
Yep, keep it simple. And-
Yep.
Okay, I don't have any other questions. Do we wanna make a motion, take a vote, or do we wanna hold off till next week, I think was what we decided.
I thought we decided to do
Yeah,
that.
we can talk about it.
Okay.
The
So,
other thing that I'll mention about the cost is, you'd also have to make this ADA compliant and accessible.
So,
And I think we're flexible on size, depending on.
Yes, it doesn't have to
on-
be that large, but,
On cost, you
Right.
know.
honestly, my sense is I'm not trying to knock anything off, you know, what you think it's gonna be, but we just need to see what it's actually, close to what it's actually gonna be, you know, the bid. You make your proposal, then you put it out to bids or whatever, and see what the bids are, and then I think from there we would come up with, you know, is it 600,000, is it 500,000, 300,000, $50, whatever it might be. Does that make sense to you, or?
it makes perfect sense to me,
Yeah.
but there's a cost associated with that. The library roof. In order to get a cost and a schematic design for that,
Yeah.
it's gonna cost $50,000.
Do you see this as being the same level of complexity as that?
To get schematic designs and all the construction documents and structural engineers and all that, probably $25,000.
Oh,
So we probably need Charlie and Melanie to, like, how does that work? Like with the ARPA process? Because we haven't run into that before.
I mean, that's not funds I have available in my operational budget. I'm sure you don't either.
No, I don't.
Okay.
Marty, do you have any questions?
No, I just walked in, so
Pavilion?
no.
That's all. I didn't wanna shut you off.
No, it's fine, thank you.
All right, so I think what we'll do is we'll take this under advisement and kinda get back to you with what we think the next steps are then. Go from there, but I think it's a good idea and a good project worthy of support. Just a matter of getting through the final rule and everything else.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Would it make, and I don't know if the ARPA funds are available for this, but would it make sense to approve or appropriate money for a design to find out exactly what the cost is?
In my,
That money is gonna have to come from
somewhere.
somewhere.
Right, and my gut feeling is it would be appropriate to do that. But we need to go back through the final rule, and Charlie would probably know, or Melanie would know if they're top of their head, but they're not here, but I think it would make sense. I mean, we have another request from, I think, the Recreation Committee for the feasibility study for Leland Farms, so that's kind of all that is, you know, this would be the feasibility of doing this pavilion.
Okay.
All right. We'll look into that and reach out to Nancy and you.
Okay.
All right.
Very good.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, next one is the school department. And, Mitchell School and Central School entrance security enhancements. Mr. Shea, welcome back. We should have just put you on the committee.
And he couldn't put all his requests in.
Oh, you mean I can't make a request?
Chief, you wanna? Sure. Brian? Help out?
I don't know how you would have any questions with all the detail I gave you in my,
Me either. Yeah, look it out there, it's like,
Thank
the only
you.
blank boxes are the nose. I guess we fill those in.
Thank you.
So thanks again for having us. The discussions that we've started, and we've, lucky to have the ARPA funding, and then come up and speak with you about what we'd like to do with our allocated funds with this. This is a safety concern for us and security concern for us, are the doors at the Mitchell and the Central School. Many of them are antiquated if you have seen them. Most of them are glass. We don't have a metal door with a, I don't know, what do you call it, a see-through glass in it. They're mostly glass at the Mitchell School. In front of the cafeteria is all glass. The Mitchell School has their metal doors, but with a big glass partition in the middle, and then windows on the side, and then you can go in, and then we do have a vestibule that can be locked, but the fob isn't hooked up into the office area, so we're doing that as well right now. At the Central School, almost every door in the front of the building, off the street where the roundabout is, they're all glass doors. They can be pushed through. We do have a vestibule. They're both locked when you go in. Parents can't just walk through the building or an intruder, but it's all glass. So if there were an intruder, and unfortunately we speak of this these days, is that if somebody did have a weapon, a gun, semi-automatic, automatic, high-powered rifle, they're gonna go right through those doors. If we have the opportunity to get a steel or enforcement door for these areas, we would be very pleased. The buildings are antiquated, they're old. So yesterday, during the professional development day, Chief O'Brien, myself, John, Brian Kiley, our facilities, we went around to to the Mitchell and Central School. We've taken pictures, we've talked about it. The chief was with us, so we've asked him to come here. It's a safety and security issue for us. I've been talking about the doors for a while. We've had, I don't know how many times we've had to redo the entrance at Central School over the last 2 or 3 years. We built it up, moved it around, tried to do everything, but it's not locking. There's times it doesn't lock. And then the Mitchell Schools, of course, we're always working at that. So we don't have a lot of numbers for you because we wanted to bring the chief out, and Brian was there, and as Brian was saying that, everything is, you could give us a price today, not depending on when we were to get the supplies, that it could go up higher on these types of safety doors, or these metal doors. So, I don't know if I'm missing anything. But if you look at, John, if you want to go through that, or?
so we've done work with our security over the last couple of years. At Mitchell, we have installed a fob access system at the main entrance, the cafeteria entrance, and an employee entrance. We have installed an access camera / doorbell at the main entrance and the cafeteria entrance. The main office now has the ability to unlock the door from their desk. We've installed new cameras in the entryways, and we've installed a new lobby guard at the Mitchell School. The things we
If you don't know what a lobby guard is, if someone comes into the building, we ask them for their license, it goes into this machine, and the machine will tell us if the person has any warrants, and we text message our SRO. So if there is an issue, it will come up, and then the SRO will come up, or the principal will come up and ask it could be a parent, it could be something that is gone, it just keeps showing up. Or we could have a possible person that was in there looking to, if there was a custody issue. That's really what we use it for.
Thank you.
So what we're looking to do with additional funding for the Mitchell School is move our lobby guard to the man trap or Sally Port foyer. That way, the license would be checked before they get into that second set of doors. We'd like to install another button in the main office for the secondary door to be opened. Like Liz had spoke about the glass in the doorways, we need to come up with a solution for the glass in the doors and in the entrances. I'd like to add a fob access to the loading dock. We have some external perimeter cameras that are not working right now. We'd like to get those working. And what I didn't include is a physical barrier. Right now, when they paved the parking lot now is level with the entranceway, the cafeteria entrance. There's no curb there anymore. So we'd like to put some type of physical barrier in that area so people couldn't drive right through the doors.
Like bollards?
Volumes, yes.
I gave you a couple examples, a couple pictures on page 1. That's what I'm talking about, the foyer. So we'd like to move the lobby guard in that foyer and also have another button in the main office to allow those doors to stay locked at all times and only opened with a fob access or by pressing the button in the main office.
Is all this glass gonna go away?
All this what?
Glass?
Well, we need to figure that out, the best way to do that. Whether we support it with metal grates, whether we brick it, whether we look at some type of film.
Standing in there yesterday, we were just kind of brainstorming and coming up with this multiple opportunities of different options that we could go with.
Right.
The purpose, John, is just to delay entry to give us time to get there.
I mean, my thought is just if, you may put steel doors in and there's 6 glass windows around the door.
That's the main issue right there that we're talking about, is if we can put these steel doors in those areas, find something, whether, we talked about doing it in brick up to on those sides, and then on the side, I think there's a picture of that. Is there a side of, no, you didn't. Then there's a side. So if you're looking at it like this, then there's the side, there's these 2 windows here and 2 windows here. So we talked to Brian about possibly bricking 3/4 of the way up. So
Those
at least,
windows are floor to ceiling.
Right. I'm thinking though, if you put the steel doors in, you get glass all around them, it's gonna go through that
Well,
glass.
the funding we would be looking for would be to take
Yeah.
care of it all,
Right.
not just the
Yeah.
doors.
And we're not worried about it starting to look like a prison on the other hand? I mean,
I mean, it's either security and safety for the kids inside. I mean, I don't know what else, I don't know what else we could do. I mean, that building is brick, if you look at it anyways. So, I mean, I think we could do a nice job at it. But I would certainly want, if I can hold somebody up, or the district, we can hold somebody up for another minute and a half. I mean, it only takes, like the chief said, the 30 seconds.
For us to get there.
no, I agree, the security is paramount, it's more than the looks, but I mean, I'm not sure if somebody else in the community might object to bricking everything up. And I just, throwing it out there, I don't know if you'd thought about it, and obviously you have thought about it and dealt with it, and just go from there.
The second picture I included is the entrance at the cafeteria area of the building. You can see that's all glass also.
And those, that, I mean, once you open those doors, you're in. You go through that front door. And that's where our cafeteria is. And that's our main hallway.
Right.
And those would be the steel doors that we're talking about going across.
They'd only have a vision kit in them, which is like
Right.
4 by 10.
Central School, over the last year and a half, 2 years, we've installed new security cameras in the building and the exterior. The lobby guard we have moved into the foyer. We've installed a window in the foyer to limit access, limit people having to go in the building if they're just dropping something off. In the foyer, there's a window to the main office, so Ryan's crew put a window in there. The outdoor lighting is much improved. That was done, a couple weeks ago. So the main thing at the central school is the same thing at Mitchell, is to create and implement a security solution for the entrances. I gave you a couple pictures also. Page 3 is just an example of the side entrance. I mean, there is no foyer there, and if someone gets in there, they're right in the building.
Right.
Page 4 is the main entrance. There is a foyer there, but both the external and the internal are just all glass. And the last page is just, some of the work that we have done in the foyer. That little screen there is the lobby guard, and the window there is what I was talking about earlier, to limit people accessing the building.
So you said it, but just to be clear, so this is between the two sets of doors?
This, the last page, yeah.
2 years ago, we created that secured vestibule. There was no secondary door when you came through the main door.
Yep.
Now, when you get buzzed in that first door, you're in a secured vestibule. You have to be buzzed in the second door after you pass the lobby guard.
And, so when I get buzzed past the second door, is somebody there to greet me, or do I just go, I expected to just go to the office to sign in, or whatever you have to do?
So we don't buzz you in. If we don't even buzz parents in anymore, really, until, you'll wait in the vestibule as your child comes upstairs. So really we don't bring you in if you're waiting for your child or to drop something off. If you're dropping something off, she'll open the door, and they'll put you can put it on, there's a buddy bench right there, so she'll put shoes or a backpack. We don't really let anybody in anymore.
Okay.
We can hold them there, Mrs. Harvey stops everybody. She'll ask you to do lobby guard, and she knows a lot of the she knows every parent, really. She's like Mrs. McStowe now, like she knows all the parents, and so they have a good grasp at that, but nobody goes in and out. I mean, that's a locked door. They go through the lobby guard. If you're coming inside, you're gonna go through the lobby guard.
Right.
If you're just dropping something off, we'll take it, we'll just say, just leave it there, we'll pick it up and you'll leave, because it locks, the second door, or the first door locks right behind you. So,
Do you have to buzz them to be able to go out?
yeah, no buzz to go out, but buzz to get in the first door, buzz to get into the second door. That's very similar to the high school. You buzz to get in, you stay in the foyer until the security guard lets you in.
Right.
And you have to go through the lobby guard system there, and then we go in from there. The Mitchell School has the capacity to do that, right now, doesn't have the capacity to do it right now, but is set up, because we have the doors from the outside fobbed.
Yep.
That can be opened from the office. The second set of doors, in that picture, they are fobbed, but there's no access for us to allow them to get in. There's no buzzer. So we'd have to do the electrical work on that. And what we'd like to do is move that lobby guard out there. So then you're held up in there. And there's a camera there, so they could talk to you there. So let you in, come in, please use the lobby guard. Or if you're dropping something off for your child, please put it on the table.
So just, oh, I'm kind of a man-trap person, anyway, I kinda like them. So if somebody came in, went to the lobby guard, says, okay, this is a bad guy, do you wanna just let him go back out, or would you wanna have him trapped there and have,
The immediate, on the lobby guard, it's an immediate response. It goes in and it gives an immediate response to the secretary, the principal, and the SRO, and to the police station. So they get a text message. Used to be an email, we got rid of the email, and the text message goes immediately to the police, immediately to our SRO, immediately to the secretary who's who's manning the door, and the principal gets a text as well. The secretary at that time would just lock down and just say, could you please hold? We've said that a couple times, and people have turned around and said no, and turned around and walked out.
right?
I don't think,
But
By
nothing
code, you
big.
can't
think
lock
the
them in,
police
we
would
can't
want
lock the
us-
doors,
No.
they have to be able to exit.
Even if it's a situation where, I mean,
Chief would get them on the street.
all right, what do you think, chief?
I would leave the door so they could get out, just so they don't, one, hurt the guard, or two, try to get into the building.
Okay,
I'd rather give them an access and then hopefully we can hunt them down.
okay, thank you. Ken, you wanna have questions?
I just to, it seems like putting it into perspective, the biggest issue is eliminating the glass. And it sounds to me like you don't have a specific way of doing it right now, but you're looking for something, and you really, until you finalize that, you can't come up with a real cost. But that's the direction we're going, correct? I mean, is that,
yeah.
that's
Yeah.
to simplify it?
The 300,000 I came up with was, in discussion with Brian, 10 exits, 30,000 an
If we
exit.
can relate it to a door that we just did recently, we did the exterior entrance door at the library. Took out a double door, we put in one single 42-inch ADA compliant door. It was $19,000 for one door. With no fob access on it.
And then there are other things that you're talking about too, like moving electricity and,
I mean,
The only question, I mean, I completely get it. And it looks like the majority of the work on the to-do list that you gave John is for the Mitchell School. But,
Well,
Central, I think.
I think Central probably has the most, would be the most expensive,
okay.
based upon our review yesterday, just because of all the different entrances. I mean, the list is longer at the Mitchell, but the cost would be more at Central, I believe.
With the, I believe, aren't we engaged with the MSBA on a accelerated program for the central school? Does it make sense to spend not knowing what, I get safety's paramount, but how do you bridge that gap that you throw new doors in and then you have
By
to
the
rip them
time we
out?
get, by the time we get into, if we were to get into, thinking about, building a new or an addition onto the central school, time it's there, we're looking out 6 years from now, at least. We've gotta do a feasibility study, which will take up to 3 years to get that finished. Then we'd have to, come back, make sure that we'd have to go to special town meeting, get the money for the feasibility study, then do the feasibility study, which takes between 12 and 18 months. So that's 2 years. After that, you're looking at, another year and a half to secure the monies and to secure, making sure the town wants this, making sure that we have the architecturals, the engineers, this and that to do it. So, I would say we're 5 years out from even moving in that direction. I mean, there's gonna be other repairs that we're going to do, That's why we talked about, we've been in the accelerated SOI program, the accelerated repair program, so that we would probably do an addition to that building, keep the frame, keep the aesthetics of the frontage of that building, and then move to the back. And that's what we talked about a couple weeks ago when MSBA was here.
Okay.
But those doorways, I mean, when it's humid in the summer, when it starts to get humid, they stick. Sometimes they don't shut. When it got cold out last year, like the frost heaves pushed it up, they were sticking. And they don't lock. So that's another issue. We know that once we change those there's two doors in the old part of the building, Brian, is that what we call it?
Yes.
You call it the old
Yep.
part of the building, the old wooden doors. They're adjacent to a ramp that is not ADA compliant, but because we've had this school for so long, it's still a wooden deck. It's done by planks. We're lucky. That's gonna have to be replaced. So those are things down the road, but I'm looking more for the safety of it, the main doors especially, but that side door at Central School scares us because it is on the side. A year ago, we did have a man that fell asleep inside there or was doing whatever inside there, and he ran away from us. About another year, 8 months ago, we had another person that was in a cove out by that side, that when we didn't have the lighting and now that we have cameras there, we can see it, was hiding. So that makes us nervous over there. And I can tell you that the police chief is allowed, or having the police officers walk through the buildings a couple times a day now when they're on the routes, and they're driving through our buildings all the time now. So the kids see them, so that they're comfortable with them, that they know who they are. The kids are seeing them now all the time, and they're in and out of those, in the back of Mitchell School, in the back of Central School. So, I mean, that's good, but if we could get that other piece of security.
Thank you.
Okay, Nadia? Okay, I think we appreciate the need, based on what's happened in the country in the past couple of years, or even further back, but, so we'll take a look at this and talk about it, figure out, you guys could think about somehow, what you need to put together to get the bids together and come up with kind of a cost estimate of what that's gonna be, just to get the bids. We'd appreciate that, and, take a look at what we can do and get back to you,
Thanks, Sean.
all right?
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you. Thank you.
appreciate everybody's time.
Don't you need to just stay here for recreation?
Yeah.
Stay right up there, John. See the Patsy. Huh? See the Patsy.
Thank you. You have the emails here, right?
Yeah, just in case you didn't
Yeah,
see it.
thank you.
Okay, welcome back.
Rec map?
That's all that's left.
Re-rec ones.
Good evening, Peter Furia, Chair of the Recreation Commission.
Okay, Peter, nice to see you.
Nice to see you, sir.
John's been taking all the credit for everything you've done.
As he should. He's fantastic, no doubt
Whatever he
about it.
hasn't done, he's blamed on you.
That's fair, too. Big shoulders.
So we got three, we're gonna start with, the,
Only three? We had way more than three.
we're only doing three tonight.
Oh, we're only going three today, okay.
Oh, such fun people, we don't wanna just have you one and done.
That's true.
Bring you
This is
back.
the fun stuff,
Right.
recreation.
So, we're gonna talk first about repurposing and renovation of two courts located on Church Street.
Yep. So the courts that are there currently are somewhere in the neighborhood of almost 40 years old. I'd say 40 years old at this point. Back when things were maybe a little bit easier to do and somebody could maybe make some things happen, and those courts in that area has served this town phenomenally well. In those 40 years, it's been, by and large, up to volunteers to keep it up and running and so forth. We've obviously benefited the John Haynes's group, the DPW has done a very nice job of working with us to help maintaining those properties as best as we possibly can. But at some point in time, whether it's a $19,000 door or basketball courts, they need either upkeep or repair. A lot of the groups, and we've done some studies with the local youth groups and kind of their needs and so forth. We sent it out to them, feedback on what some of their concerns or what some of their needs were. And they varied in a multitude of different things. The basketball courts are not only a need, but they're probably, at this point in time, a little bit of a safety liability, just from the heaving and the cracks that's happened down there.
Okay. And cost-wise, always that first question. Bids and-
Which it should be, and thank you for having that be one of the first costs. I mean, good job. So we've got a bunch of different numbers that we've put together. As a side, we've also, through Selectman Spagone and Representative Sullivan, they've provided us with a $50,000 or $55,000 grant from the state. So it's not like we're only coming to this board looking for funds from here. We're doing our best to make sure that we look outside of there. Big picture wise, John?
Yeah, so the total cost of this project, we estimated to be about $250,000. $55,000 we received in an earmark funding from the state, and there's also a $40,000 article in this year's capital budget, so that would take care of $95,000. So that $95,000 would cover the basketball court and the basketball hoops. We're asking for an additional $146,000. And I believe I gave you a detail of what I was.
Breakdown.
A breakdown, what I was asking for. But we're looking at site preparation, a security camera system, renovating the lighting that's down there, a guardrail to protect from cars driving on it. We'd like to add a couple pickleball courts. And I put a contingency in there of $29,000 just because the way prices are increasing so much lately. I wouldn't want to ask for $117,000
And come back
and have to come back.
A little egg on our face.
So in the first picture I gave you, if you see the gray area, that is the old
Inline skating.
inline skating rink, inline rink for hockey. That surface, and if John Haynes is here also, but correct me if I'm wrong, I'm sure you will. That surface is in good shape.
Has minor cracks.
Has minor cracks.
Needs some repair work and so forth, but by and large, by various people who I've met down there, they believe that surface is in repairable shape as opposed to replaceable shape.
So we'd like
Condition.
we'd like to get the cracks filled, sealed, painted, and that's where we would like to put a couple pickleball courts. It would also leave a significant amount of space available for other things, because 2 pickleball courts would only take up, I believe, about half of that space. On the right there, the 2 basketball courts.
Yep.
That area is pretty much unusable now. for safety reason, the cracks in the court,
It's more heaving. I mean, there's substantial cracks there, some, 3/4 inch wide or more cracks. The bigger safety concern is probably either heaving where whatever's happening underneath is rising above, or depressions where water has settled and now it's not a level playing surface at all. And one of the courts is dramatically worse than the other, but at the end of the day, they're both in need of repair.
So our plan is to grind it down and then lay more asphalt and install what's called a Versa court system, which I've included in my package to you guys. Those are plastic squares that are pre-painted at the factory and they're
Interlocked together.
In the second picture I gave you, that would be almost exactly what we're looking to do, 2 courts. Those are the interlocking squares that I'm talking about for the basketball court.
What's the site preparation for that?
So grinding out the existing courts and so forth, getting it more leveled, unearthing anything underneath the courts rocks that are pushing up and so forth.
So that's the $58,000?
So
That's
that's the number we've given.
And also the prep for the other court,
Yep.
filling in the cracks, sealing it, painting it.
Dan, you have any questions?
I don't. I think it's very well put together.
No questions.
Gigi?
Is there currently security cameras and lighting down there?
There is electricity, there are light poles, but the lights don't work. The lighting fixtures would have to be replaced.
Thank you.
No, like everything else, it just comes down to justifying the prices, and that will change as we go along.
Ongoing costs once all this is done.
Or you would have electrical for the lighting.
And would the electrical be different from what it is today?
Well, there's no lighting now.
Oh, okay, so, but we would be putting
Lighting
lighting
doesn't
in?
work now.
So Strong's, I guess what the question is what will lighting cost going forward? And what are our electrical bills at Strong's Field? $60 a month or something like that?
Well, it depends if I put the freezer in the refrigerator. on.
Minimal costs, which I would think we would be able to fund through programs that we would like to see. So I think it was a good question asked earlier on as to, with regards to one of the structures. We would want to make sure that those courts get utilized for programs, which would then come back into, obviously, to fund things like electricity and so forth.
So you feel confident you'd be able to do it through your own budget, whether it's the money you get from the town and your money you get from user fees and things
Correct.
like that? Okay.
Yeah, I think we're one of the only towns that doesn't have a viable basketball court for kids to play.
And if anybody, Middleborough did one of those Versa courts recently as well. He's installed them all over the place and so forth. And there's opportunity for reduction in cost and he says it's fairly easy to install. But if we could get a group of people together, then there's potential reduction in cost for volunteer labor as opposed to farming that labor out, which we're certainly looking into as well.
Okay.
Don't you currently get rents from using the facility down there from other teams? or no?
Not that specific property, no.
No?
Well, I should say the basketball courts, no.
No?
Okay, I think you covered everything. And last chance, anyone questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Don't go far.
Nope. I'm going to the high school after this, so
Well, better
not
tonight
going
than-
far. I'm not going far after this.
Better tonight than last night.
Yeah.
LED lighting, Church Street, $80,000.
Yeah. So upgrade of some sorely lacking older fixtures
On the Little League fields.
on the little league
And
and
softball.
and softball field.
to talk about it? or-
Oh, we've been working with, I think, trying to work more and more with the sports groups. We reached out to them for their capital needs. And so they gave us their capital needs. They actually went out and got quotes themselves for this. So we are supporting them and submitting this on their behalf.
On the behalf of Little League.
Okay.
We recently had a upgrade to the Little League fields, maybe 3 years ago, that we were able to work in conjunction with DPW to bring up that, the snack shack to, ADA compliance and so forth. So we had a nice little, small little win there, with, you know, I want to say the town helped on that one. So I think what we're trying to do is start small, get the ball rolling, and improve some of these facilities that have been, they're used very, very frequently. So, which is a great thing. I think that's what we all want. We want our fields and spaces to be utilized. So I think some of this benefits the community to make sure that we upkeep these as we see fit. And Little League came to us with this request for those fields. So we're on behalf of them, we're presenting it.
Thanks. Just one question. I know when they put the lights up originally, National Grid or whatever they were, Eastern Edison was called back then, they donated a lot to that. Covered most of the cost.
A lot of the fixtures, if I'm not mistaken, and so forth.
I mean, is there any thought of going to them and asking?
I think it's a great ask. Yep. Especially where we're trying to go to a more energy efficient model.
Right.
So maybe there are some other opportunities for us to work in conjunction with them to reduce that cost.
Yeah, rebates, there could be rebates.
Yeah.
Yeah, we certainly could ask if you think this has the potential of moving forward.
Might seem desperate, but even if like the Mass Conserve or whatever it is that goes around,
Mass Save.
you call it Mass Save, they go into your house or whatever and do things.
Definitely.
Doesn't cost anything for us to ask.
Nope.
you
Nope.
know? Yeah, any other? Gigi?
No.
Ken? Ian?
Nope.
Okay. And again, we're gonna go through these and then we'll talk
Yep,
about them.
we
later.
understand.
Get back.
We appreciate the process.
All right, last but not least, the upgrade of the sheds and the concession
That-
stand,
Did that Church Street building, this one? Or is that the other
$1,419.
What was the cost on that one, please?
$61,419 with the sticky,
I think it's the first one in Roos, maybe?
date 9/10/2022, TBD quote should be arriving soon.
No.
That,
I
so,
think that's siding and repair to,
so there's a lot of work that needs to be done at the Little League soccer complex. There's roofing that needs to be done. There's an electrical upgrade that needs to be performed on that building. So the Little League field has a concession stand, and below it is their shed.
yeah, I think it's this one.
Is the garage underneath. So
That's that one. I believe.
You not have, you want us,
Yeah,
you want this?
I just want to make sure we're looking at the right one on our
yeah,
side.
because I don't think I worded it that way.
Right?
So that includes an electrical upgrade to that building, which is based on a quote, and also renovation to the outside, the exterior of the building.
For the snack shack or for the soccer field in the back?
Snack shack. I believe you got the whole quote right there.
I also did a different one for roofs, which is not part of that, but the roofs are for the Belmont Street soccer field, what the building you're talking about on the soccer field,
And the,
and the concession stand.
You know, there's like, next to Bath, like, I don't know if it's this,
Yep,
Yeah.
no, so there's that building is a separate quote in here, along with the snack shack, along with a quote for, Belmont Street.
okay,
So that would be the one that was 16,800?
That sounds right.
yeah.
So what we're talking about right now is the exterior renovation of what's the existing snack shack, for clarification's sake.
Okay.
And I think that there's probably 25, 30-year-old T111, and I think we've had some donations of various products throughout the years and so forth to keep it up and running again. I think that, you know, what, on the recreation side of things, and sounds like on a bigger picture town side of things, there's a lot that needs to get done to a couple 100-year-old town, and it's challenging to figure out where to start. So what we wanted to do by doing this is we polled the youth sports groups about 2 years ago now, and they gave us a list of kind of their needs. So a lot of this is the basis off of at least a couple years ago that I think we started this project.
May I suggest, like, in this design, or maybe when you guys go back, because with the snack shack being on Church Street, there's nothing for anyone to go. We have to go walk all the way back, but there's Hobart Street where I think there should be two of them centralized, like
Yeah.
one at the entrance.
So that one over by the soccer field was actually a
That's what
concession stand.
it looks like
Yeah,
it was
it
to
was a
me.
concession stand.
That's why I questioned it and
Yep.
asked you, maybe that should be something that we should, maybe look into in getting that back and running.
I would agree with
It makes
that.
more of a sense
would
in
agree
terms of
with
the
that.
whole budget
Yep.
and stuff like that.
I think that it's definitely something that we want to kind of push the youth groups to kind of go towards. And then I would say with the kind of the how good food trucks have become, I don't know if there's a way to kind of work with some private organizations to actually, because the thing that we're seeing, at least, and John's here as a volunteer tonight, and I'm here as a volunteer, you're all here all as a volunteer. Volunteerism is incredibly challenging right
So
now.
hard.
So staffing of these things becomes a little bit of a challenge.
But like there's no parking as well, like at that,
So,
that parking lot is.
So
a
we
zoo.
talk about feasibility studies. You don't want me to go down that road.
No, we don't wanna go
because
that
I
road, but
think
we
that
already
we
know
need
where that's
feasibility
going. Right.
studies for a much bigger kind
Right.
of concept, so we can spend the town's funds
Effectively.
in a smart and effective manner.
Yes.
Anyone else have questions on the request?
None for me.
Ken? Gigi?
No.
All right, well, thank you for your time.
Great job getting me out of here. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
That was our goal. If you get out quickly, so do we.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for what you do for the town.
Thank you.
So much. Thank you for everybody as well.
Pick the next 5.
We want to talk about these now, or
We can.
Yeah, I think so. I should, pick the next.
Yeah.
Are you okay with that?
Talking about,
This tonight and then?
oh, yeah, I think we should while we,
Yeah.
you know.
Right, it's in my mind.
Yeah, I don't know if you want to start with just numbers, but I have a real hard time. I'm not saying accepting what people are telling us, that's not, don't get me wrong. I have a hard time with the process that we have. We're asked to give funds
Thought I
where
knew.
they can't give us a finite number. And it costs to get that number, so they need funds. It's a catch-22.
Yeah, I don't think
But
that
that-
makes any sense either.
That's
Yeah.
my biggest takeaway from tonight, is that we have to step back and think about this process. Talk to Charlie and Melanie and say, what is the process for getting, I don't think all these things are $50,000, but whatever that first project was, getting $50,000 to put out a bid,
Right.
right? So, I mean, we have to deal with that, figure out what we're gonna do with that. But I think amongst the 5 of us, unless someone here knows things that I don't, till we get Charlie and Melanie here, we'll have to just kind of know that we gotta deal with that going forward. and, you know, by our next meeting, have an idea of how we're going to do it, because, you know, like, the way you're thinking, I'm sure everybody else is thinking, when I was coming here tonight for this, it was like, you know, bids, so were all
That's what
my
I thought
questions on
too.
everything. And we really have no bids, it's estimates, you know, some of them, they're all good faith estimates, I'm sure, but some of them based on pie-in-the-sky numbers and what-if numbers and things like that. It's not something you
Can't
wanna
be productive
hang
in
your,
that way, no.
yeah, you can't hang your hat on that stuff.
Right, right. You know, the way I look at it is if I were doing this on my own, okay, and I'm not trying to, you know, say, you know, I wanted to or anybody should be doing it, but if I were doing this on my own, for my own company or whatever, and someone came to me saying they needed this money, you know, I would want more specifics right off the bat.
Yep.
I mean, in some ways, their hands are tied, right? I mean, they're not, because of state procurement laws, and I don't know what the exact dollar is, they have to go out to bid.
Right.
But I'm sure they're out there saying, I mean, contractors are funny right now too, because they don't necessarily need business, they're busy. You know, I mean, I'm trying to
Right.
get somebody to replace my landscaping and they wanna charge $250 to come and look at it.
I know, crazy.
Just to like, you know, give me an estimate, I'm like, I pay you to give me work. And so they probably run into that too with, you know,
Yeah.
how do you get the contractors out to look at the scope of the project if they don't, are you gonna do it? I don't know, we're applying for an ARPA fund, you know?
Right, I mean, but it's something that everybody else must be doing, and within Plymouth County, the administrative end of this themselves, they must have some idea of what to do.
Yeah.
And again, I'm gonna lean on Melanie and Charlie to find that out for us. But I mean, doesn't make sense to me to say, okay, well, you know, John Margie come in here, he said it's gonna be $350,000, let's give him $350,000. And is another question for them is there a avenue for them to give money back when they don't spend the whole $350,000?
I was gonna ask that, or does it go into do they keep it, which might not be such a bad thing if it gets put to use for something else in the recreation committee, or, I'm assuming that's what would happen.
But, I mean, it's not all, we got 20-something applications, and you know, maybe half of them are the recreation committee, but, I mean, is that fair to the other people too that might want that money? At some point, we're gonna be done, we're gonna say, all right, we got 3 projects left, and we got $50 left, how do we split it up? And then there's somebody with thousands of dollars extra that they didn't need for the project that got approved under the ARPA criteria. It's gotta be a way to get that money, it must come back into the bucket, or not be spent that way.
Nadia has a.
So
I'm
I just
sorry.
feel like like with how things work, like he was saying beginning, like I was hoping that, you know, they know that this money was coming in, and he mentioned that there's other schools that has done the same type of projects, so you would think that they would reach out to those people that have done those work. What was the total amount for this scope? This is what we have for specifications. Just give me a ballpark figure, present that, you know. I just feel like we're blindsided going into this, and I do think that I think moving forward, maybe talk to Charlie and Melanie to find out if we can get these projects, mainly the school ones, which they know the people that does those kind of work, they should be able to get specific numbers, and that's what I think we should be asking for. And they have plenty of time, like, we have 2 years, I think, but I mean, we wanna move, it takes a 7-month process, but at least in the meantime, during the weekends, like you said, your job is to provide quotes, like, I'm not paying you. Anyone that said for you to come out and pay you to give me your opinion, your professional opinion, I have a problem with that. It's personal, right? But I just feel like in these type of situation, commercial-wise, they know what the bottom line is, because other schools have done it, or other similar companies. You can have somewhat an idea what it would cost.
Well, and I think that's a really good point, because based on some of the feedback from Charlie after the submission of the last 2, I think it was in an email, that when they reached out to Plymouth County came back and said, only look at the money we've allocated, or that we've opened the coffers of.
Yeah.
You know, the other 3
Right.
quarters. So I think we can go back to these groups, and they have time to say,
They do.
we need.
While we're waiting the period,
Right.
as it going through the process, we should be
Because
able to get some
otherwise, I mean,
estimates. You know what I mean?
We don't wanna spin our wheels.
That's what I feel like we're kind of going that path.
My feeling is this, I think we looked at 5 things tonight, and a few things the other night, and all the ones we've talked about, I think as a group we wanna do. Right?
I
So
have
then
to
it just
agree.
comes
I
back
think
to-
they all seem
Fair.
reasonable, you know, so.
So I think what we needed to get back from them are the details, like Brian Kiley says, and he does this day in, day out,
Right.
is in order to get an estimate, it could cost you $50,000. And that's, he knows it, cause he does it, and that's the way it is. So we gotta figure, if that's what it costs, that's what it costs. But is there a way to do something a little differently so we can maybe get a little cheaper? But if it's $50,000, it's gotta come out of it, and we wanna do the project, that's what the cost is gonna be. And we'll have to reconcile ourselves to being that way.
I'm more, for me,
Well-
I want a transparent process for me, like, in this, doing this, is what other companies, like, are we going to the same old, like, I would like to see other bids, other people putting bids for these jobs as
Right.
well, not the same people or the same company that keeps getting these jobs
And
as well.
that's what we wanna get to, is the bids. But, he's saying, first you gotta spend $50,000 to put the specifications of the doors, say, for the school, right?
Okay,
And then you take, for $50,000, you take those specifications, then you bring it to those specifications to the contractor. Okay, so we need all steel, 12x8 steel and
okay,
20x30, whatever.
right,
And it goes, they take it and they gotta put it out to, I think it's 3 people, 3
Yes.
different groups or companies
companies, yep,
to get the estimates back, and they come back, and then you take the lowest bid that's giving you what you want.
that has
money.
everything that you
Right.
want in there,
So,
yeah.
we got, what I've kind of had overlooked and we've discovered tonight is, we got that mid-step in between, that we gotta figure out how we get those folks to get over that bridge to the land where they can go get bids.
But I'm saying they have time, though.
Oh, that's time.
They have
Question
time.
is
My
time.
concern with the process is if they want to get that $50,000 through ARPA,
They need to.
they need to, number one, applications are closed. That's what we were told.
Yep.
So they didn't file an application to do a feasibility study, they filed it to do a project.
Right.
I don't know, I mean, that's maybe
Right.
splitting hairs, but
Yeah, right.
that's what they,
It's
that's
a
what they
legitimate question.
did. And then we know it's taking 9
7
months
Seven
to
to
get
9
an
months.
answer on one thing. So if we send the feasibility study in,
Mm-hmm.
that's 9 months. Then they have to come back, then they have to get the feasibility study, then they have to get their bids. We could run out of time.
So, I think the best way we can go is do what we can do, and ask them to, you have a Brian Kiley and John Shea, I'm sure has a lot of experience in the school department, putting out bids and things like that. Figure out how much it's gonna cost you to do that, and then put that as a cost of the project. And just include it, say, when it was one of them $300,000, so it's $30,000 of that, they should outline as a cost of their project, $30,000. So now, it's $270 for the project and $30 for the study, or $300 for the project and $330 for the,
Yes.
when you include that, so. But again, I think that's, Charlie and Melanie can give us a better
Yeah.
Yeah.
way
I think
to
we
say
need guidance on that.
There's
We
a
need
better way to say it.
clarification. Now that we've done, 8 maybe, we've gotten feedback from the people that have requested, and now we have questions among ourselves for Charlie and Melanie, and we need answers before we can really go any further.
So maybe
I
that
think, anyway,
maybe
in
that
my
should-
mind,
should be our next meeting with Charlie and Melanie and not
You
with
won't.
any additional.
further.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I agree with that.
yeah, let's find out how we deal with estimates and schematics and,
Yeah, just like get a time frame as well, like if it's
Yeah.
X, Y, and Z, let's what needs from step 1 to step 5 prior to, then at least we'll have an idea moving forward once we get that information. But I just think, like I said, we are gonna be spinning our wheels if we continue the way we're doing.
and, when you ask me if I had any questions, and the same question
Yeah.
applies to every one of these.
One of these, yeah.
How did you come up with that figure? How'd you come up with $146,000 to make 2 basketball courts or 4 basketball courts, and what was, I forget what the other one was, 61,000 for the snack bars.
That's what I'm saying, like, it
Yeah.
just doesn't make any sense to me, because
No.
like I said, I have children, I'm like, I'm gonna be in those fields for a very long time, unfortunately, but it's like,
Oh, it's not
Cost.
unfortunate, it's fortunate. When you get to be my age, you look back and say, geez, I wish I
you miss
could.
it.
But they're still on the payroll.
Right. So I do think it's like I said, it just doesn't seem to make any sense to me, because like that, right here, this one right here, I pass it by it all the time. It's like, you have to literally walk like a mile to go to the Church Street one.
Sure.
There's nothing
Sure.
on that side at all. And then there's practices with the soccer field, right here, this is where the soccer people, like other fields, lacrosse practices there and soccer practices as well there. So it would make more sense that when it's going just for that one, it's very tiny little thing, you couldn't make it both right over here. It's just,
Well, you know, Nadia, I was involved with that when those were built. When
Were
the-
you?
When the fields were being built before, I think you were too, John. John Silver
okay?
was down here running a front end loader, grading the land and everything else, and so that goes back 30 years at least. And it's come about incrementally, so it's not like anybody thought that we were gonna have that long walk in that small parking lot.
Right, and
You
it's
know,
getting
now-
bigger, and the
now-
population's getting increasing and
Yeah,
everything like that.
the population is great. I don't know where I was going with that, but I agree with you, it's not placed correctly,
It's not, and like, like,
But it was, the Little League
Go-karts.
field was at Church Street, there were, the couple of fields there, and the snack bar was between the two
between the two
fields.
fields, right?
And, that stuff out there was a field, and then after the Little League fields got going, the evolution is, let's put some soccer fields out there.
Right.
And so then the soccer fields went out there, then they ended up on Belmont Street, and all this other stuff came in.
That's why I asked
too.
about renting, because I know other schools, they pay other, they rent those spaces for club, like my sons play club AAU soccer, they can rent that and we bring revenue. So that way you wouldn't have to depend on volunteer, because like you said, volunteer is tough to get people to do stuff. So if we can, make some money out of it, improving the site, then I think would be a good idea too.
Well, someone mentioned, I don't even know where it was, it might have been here, it might have been somewhere else, but soccer has a real difficult time getting volunteers for the snack bar. And that used to be a moneymaker for us. Little, but still, it made money for us,
Right.
But the reality is, whoever said it, is volunteerism is going away.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Everywhere you go and talk to other
Same people everywhere.
Right.
it's, they got no one to work the snack bar.
Yeah.
Snack bar will be closed unless we get 3 people, or,
Right.
and it's lost revenue, but for that organization too,
It sure is. And like I said, bring the food truck, again, I'm like a big supporter of small business. I flashback Frank's when that locally, but at the same time, people complain about their fees going up and, prices registration, but that's the reason why. So it's all also, I think for me as, as a parent, it's the leadership as well. Like, now I'm forced to, if I don't volunteer, they cash in my $20 check if I don't at least do one shift and a volunteer. So that's how you kind of get people going, because when you hit them in the pockets, that's how you get people to come and move stuff. So it's not dead yet, but there's ways to be innovative and try to get people with more engaged. But I know that the leadership in terms of that's partly the reasons why we don't have any volunteers. Like, you get no response at all from president down. So it has for a couple of years, and with the pandemic, it did not help at all. So, but you got to look into that too as well. But I think the food trucks. But again, parking, you cannot find parking at all. Like, you ever go into Belmont Street opening day? Like, it's crazy. It's a zoo. Like, you cannot find parking because there's no more space. We are running out of space. So I don't know what the solution may not be, but it would be great to have the food truck. But then, where are they going to park? And safety
Okay.
issue with the kids.
Thing with the food truck versus getting someone in the snack
Snack
bar
shack.
is the food truck's making all the money.
They should be donating it back to the.
Then
That's what I'm saying. That's where we come. Like, what do you want to do?
Just to get back on the numbers thing, I don't know how you folks feel about it, but it seemed like some of the numbers just inflated.
Yes.
The
I
numbers just
agree.
really high. And how do we say we're going to accept we're going to approve your proposal or your request, but with limits? Are we going to be able to do that?
I think
Charlie?
we as a rule or a guideline, we would go along, I think it's $20,000 and up, is capital project, you need to get bids.
Okay. Okay, yeah,
I mean, and that's a question that's asked in the application, too.
yeah.
I mean, I think all we can do is we can make a recommendation to the Board of Selectmen with what caveats we might think are appropriate, but ultimately it's the Board of
We're
Selectmen.
not giving out the money.
Right.
We're approving the
They're just making a
process and
recommendation.
forwarding it, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Because I just feel like the numbers are just way out of whack sometimes.
I totally agree with you on
So
that.
it might be helpful, actually, in our
Amazing.
next meeting, if we had at least one, if not maybe a couple of the select persons attend, to get their, like, we should be hearing their philosophy.
You can really only have one unless it's gonna be a selectmen's meeting.
Right.
So. We had Peter here.
We had Peter, we let him go.
And, you know, just again on one of the ones tonight, I don't think, I wasn't really prepared to, you know, ask Nancy Hill more on that project that she proposed, but that's a really good idea. But the number just seems really high again, you know, and because there is so much land down there. And the senior center seems to be in use pretty well. I mean, that was a gold mine, well, not a gold mine, but that was a real great
bang
thing
for
that was
our
done for the town, you know, so. And the pavilion, I've seen pavilions in other places where you could actually, you know, it's nice to have an outdoor shower or an outdoor kids' party, or, you know, I see there's Girl Scouts and there's little groups down there when I'm gardening, you know, so maybe that would, you know, they would benefit from that. But that 600,000 also seemed like a lot of money for a structure, you know, which is not even enclosed. You know, it's an open structure, it's basically a pavilion, uprights, benches, and a pad.
What's it cost to put a roof on nowadays?
Yeah, I know. That's why I try to do things myself, which is probably crazy, you know? Yeah, but anyway, I think that's a really good project too. But all of them are, you know?
All are so far, I mean, just, it's like, we wanna do them, it's just we have to figure out narrow it down so that we're comfortable that the amounts that we're paying for the projects are the correct amounts.
That's it for me too,
Yeah,
at the end of the day.
yeah.
Absolutely.
And then it just, you know, I'll keep going now, I'm gonna roll maybe too much coffee today. Lights for the fields. The problem I see with that is that there are other leagues that would benefit from lights too, that should come under the umbrella of the rec commission. And how do we justify giving it to Little League and not soccer,
Or not football.
or not football, you know, so do we have to be aware of that? You know, should we be aware of
Should
that?
be aware of it.
Well, but I also, every organization in the town had the opportunity to submit
Sure.
an application, and if they didn't, they didn't.
Yeah, I was just thinking this was all under the umbrella of the rec commission,
Right.
so,
Yeah, which just
Yeah.
goes under for all the sports, that's true too
Yeah.
as well. We can also, like I said, put recommendation that this funding should be utilized for all sports under, and that way we cover that basis. So we wouldn't be hearing, oh, the only Little League got some. It should be used for all sports activities, or put in that recommendation.
and do they need night games? I mean, yes, it's nice, and yes, the kids love it, and it's,
Right,
But-
fun, but,
uh,
yeah.
you know, without,
Parents don't like it.
what's that?
The parents don't like it.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh,
Those
But,
lights off, let's go home.
you know, do they really need the lights? Do we need?
Right.
And then the other thing too on the lights is that I know that we owned a factory, and National Grid changed all our light bulbs for a minimal amount of money.
yeah, very. I did the mass save as well for my house. It
Yeah,
was a
I
very
did too.
eye-opening
Yeah.
situation,
It is. So anyway,
I think we'll
Enough.
follow up on that,
the mass save.
yeah.
Yeah, they should definitely take opportunity for that.
Anything else?
that's
Uh,
enough, right?
The only thing we have to do is make sure we do minutes
Yep.
before we leave.
Oh, yeah,
Oh,
Has
yeah,
everyone
approve
had a
it.
chance to read it?
I read it earlier.
I read it too.
I did too.
Yep. So
I approve it.
You wanna make
So
a motion?
Sorry. Well, no, go ahead, you guys can do it.
Any second to Nadia's motion?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Good job.
All right, next meeting?
We'd be back on a Tuesday. Are we going back to a Tuesday?
I hope so.
Is it Tuesday before Thanksgiving, is it?
The 22nd?
No, it's the week before then. That's good with me. Does that,
November 22nd?
Sure.
Sure, that's fine.
That's meeting with Charlie, right? Or is
Yeah,
that
he'll
just
be
a
back.
regular?
He's just on vacation, I think.
Okay,
But,
so we aren't gonna bring anybody else in?
right, just
We'll
Charlie
just
and
talk to
Melanie?
Charlie and Melanie about that?
right, and then we'll kind of go through the ones that we have,
Or maybe we
if we
could,
can.
or maybe we can like, can we all individually just put in and say, hey, we, based on the 8, these are the things that we're to discuss and what, or do we, and then we can like have a good discussion, like, with the both of them, based on our questioning with the application. That way they have our questions, and then when they come in, they could kind of like brainstorm of how we can come back.
Yeah, I was
with it.
planning on, I'll type up the minutes, get these out. Hope, I might even do them when I go home tonight. And then I'll share them with Charlie and Melanie to say, here's what we talked about, and this is what we want you to be prepared to discuss in the next,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, come up with a list of questions for them so they can be prepared, sure.
Right, right. So
Yeah.
that way we don't, like.
Waste
you
their
know,
time, everybody's,
my time,
yeah,
yeah.
you know, I agree.
All right, so,
Thank you, John.
thank you all. All right, we have one more motion that we can entertain.
Motion to adjourn.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.